Hi, this is Marty Leckletter, Product Manager for HCL Leap, which is part of VoltMX, with a video tutorial on how to extend Leap apps with Foundry and Iris. This video accompanies a step-by-step tutorial. In it, we're going to import a sample Leap application. We're going to define services to it in Foundry, and then we're going to use those services in Iris. The tutorial requires that you have access to Leap, Foundry, and Iris, which you get when you sign up for the VoltMX trial. Details on how to sign up for that trial can be found in the step-by-step tutorial. The first step is to import the sample Leap file. This is the deal tracking application. So we're going to click on Existing Application, and we're going to find the file which we downloaded. And we want to make sure that we deploy it and include the data. So in a few seconds, that application is deployed. Now if we click the chevron and go down below, what we want to do is get the application ID. Copy that to the clipboard, because we're going to use that in our Swagger URL. This is the spec which defines the service endpoints for this Leap application. If we put this URL into our browser, we can see that the JSON comes back successfully, and if so, what we want to do is save this as a file. So we're going to say save page as, and then give it a logical name and save it in a location that you can remember, because we're going to use this in the next step in Foundry. So we'll go over to Foundry, we'll create a new application, give it a name like deal tracking, and we'll click integration and then configure new, and we're going to create a new integration service. So in this case, we'll give it a name Leap App, and we'll pick the Open API spec, and we're going to give it that Swagger file that we had just saved. Right, now this is important that what you want to do is give it the right host and the base path, as well as set the scheme to HTTPS. So then we'll save this, and if successful, we'll go over to adding operations. We'll click on HCL Leap and then services, and we'll pick the services, the CRUD services for records, and we'll add all those operations. Next, we'll move on to testing the operations, starting with list, and we're going to scroll down on the inputs, and we're going to change secure to an on. We're going to do this to keep things simple. Security will be covered in a different tutorial. We'll save and fetch responses, and we can see that we fetched a JSON list of responses, so this passes the test. Now we'll move on to create, and create's a little bit more involved. We're going to stick with anonymous access, and with create, what you need to do is give it the create action. So this is the button ID in Leap for creating a new record, and then you need to give it the fields and values for the record you want to create. So you can see the field IDs and the values that I have there, and if I say save and fetch response, it gives me confirmation that I have created a record. And for further proof, I can go over to Leap and I can view data, and I can look at the results. So I'll start by adding the date created on into the column, and then I'll sort so I get the most recent at the top, and there you can see the record that I just created. And while I've got this open, what I want to do is copy the ID, and we're going to use that in the next step, which is testing the delete. So we'll set delete to an on, and if you're going to delete something, you need to know the ID of it, so we put the ID in there. So now we'll test this, and it's given us a positive response, and if we go back to Leap and refresh the browser, we see that it did delete that record. Moving on to retrieve, I see that Fat Tire is at the top of the list. Well, I'll grab the ID for that record, and we'll retrieve that over in Foundry as part of our test. So we've got the ID, flip over to Foundry, we're going with an on, and then we put in the record UID, and we click retrieve, and we can see that yes, we retrieved Fat Tire. In the last test, we'll update the fat tire record, seeing that I already have the UID on the clipboard. We'll scroll down, you can see anon, the UID for that record. I've got the action for update, which updates it in the submitted stage. So I've got the submitted stage ID in there, and then I've got all the values to update the record entered as well. It gives me confirmation that it succeeded, and if I flip over to Leap and refresh, I can see I now see late stage as part of the record. Now that I've defined and tested everything in Foundry, I can flip over to Iris and start a new project or finish an existing project. In this case, I've been working on a mobile app. In this case, I have a list of the different deals from that Leap application. I've got a form to update the deals, to create a new deal, and then some charts to do some analysis. And I plan on building some offline support into this as well. Well, how do I associate that Foundry app with the Leap data services in it with my Iris project? Well, I go over to Data and Services, and to the right of the Refresh button, I click on the hamburger menu and say Link to Existing App. It comes up with a list of Foundry apps, and I select the one that we just created, and I say Associate. So at this point, what I can do is map all my services to my different forms. And when I'm done, I can preview the app. And I can see that data is flowing from my Leap app through the Foundry services we set up into the mobile app that I'm building in Iris. I can click on a record, see it in form. I can update the value. I can add a new record. And I can view some charts. So in summary, you can see that it's pretty easy to define a Leap application in Foundry so that you can build off of it and extend the functionality of it in Iris. You can do things in Iris you can't do in Leap, like build mobile apps, provide offline support, and much more. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.